So Winnipeg in the 1890s and till about 1911 and a little beyond that was the fastest growing city in Canada, situated pretty much in the middle of the country. Everything went through Winnipeg, so it was a busy, bustling city. It drew tons of immigration. The families of the Falcons, all of the players were born in Winnipeg, but all of their parents had come directly from Iceland. So they were first-generation Canadians. Some of them might have been second, maybe their families had been here a little bit longer.
But of course, there was discrimination against the Icelanders in those days. Well, besides, Winnipeg was basically a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant city. And the problem with the Icelanders was that they looked just like the English. Actually, they were a little bit bigger and perhaps a little bit more handsome, I don't know. There was some particular discrimination. The Icelanders were called Goolies. Goolies. I don't know where it came from, but that's the phrase.
So the fact that, these guys had faced so much prejudice in a way that seemed so ridiculous now, like there's nothing obvious about Icelandics that you would think would endure so much prejudice, but the world was a more prejudiced place, I guess. And the fact that they overcame so much and that the team got so good and became good enough to represent Canada in the first Olympic hockey tournament, to me, it was always just a fascinating sort of underappreciated Canadian story. I mean, a hockey story, sure, but just a great Canadian story. So 1890s Winnipeg is a hockey power in Canada. One of the top 2 or 3 best teams in Canada. The Winnipeg Victorias, they win the Stanley Cup, on a fairly regular basis in the 1890s and early 1900s. So hockey is definitely taking a foothold in Winnipeg, and everybody wants to take part. And so the Icelandic clubs, they form 2 groups and they play against each other because they aren't really welcomed to play with the others.
Well, the Falcons were started, I think, around 1905 and 1910 as the Icelandic Athletic Club. And eventually, I think around 1912, they took the name of the Falcons because that's the national bird of Iceland. And that would be a very popular name in those days in Winnipeg.
And now, with just the one team, they really do have to find people to play. And it becomes a bit of an issue because of the sort of entrenched prejudice in the society.
The Falcons started their own league. There was a team from Selkirk and a team from Brandon. And that's what they played until the war interfered.
When the war breaks out in 1914, and especially as it goes along by 1916 or so, hockey players and athletes in particular are being both heavily recruited to join the war effort and also, fairly heavily shamed if they aren't. Like, why are you, a fit young man, playing hockey, especially when guys start getting paid money to play? Why are you staying here being paid money to play hockey when people are fighting and dying in the war? So, like, entire teams would enlist en masse. The hockey teams, there were hockey teams of ethnic backgrounds, Irish teams, Catholic teams, French teams, Icelandic teams, Jewish teams, and they were recruited for the war in the same way. There were Jewish battalions, there was, and it wasn't so much an Icelandic battalion, but it was a Scandinavian battalion. So the 223rd Battalion has Icelandics, Swedes, Norwegians, Finns living in Canada. So suddenly, all the Falcons who were of age are now on this 223rd Battalion team, and it is admitted into what's now called the Winnipeg Patriotic League for the 15-16 season. But after that season ends, they are all sent overseas. And when they come back to Canada after the war and talk about reforming the team, they start to realize that despite all this, the prejudices are still there.